For my presentation, I'm going to be discussing topics in two stories in the book Other Voices, Other Vistas. The two stories will be Pigeons at Daybreak by Anita Desai and Clarisa by Isabel Allende. The topics I am going to be discussing are themes and character. Both stories show how caregiving, burden, and personal identity are shaped through close relationships, aging, and spiritual or emotional transformation. First, I'm going to be talking about the characters in Pigeons at Daybreak. Otima Basu is a primary caregiver to her husband. She is seen as lighthearted, loving, and patient, although sometimes she can become frustrated towards her husband's irritability. She also tends to carry the physical and emotional burden of her husband's illness, which further shapes her identity as a caregiver. Mr. Basu, on the other hand, is getting old, is sick, and vulnerable. He struggles with grief and fear and chooses to escape through old memories. He also is frustrated with the fact that he is left dependent on his wife for emotional and physical labor, which tends to create a dependent versus independent dynamic in their relationship. In Clarisa, the protagonist is a caregiver to not only her family, but the community as well. This domestic, physical, and emotional labor shapes her identity strongly. However, with this burden, she is still able to gain emotional and spiritual strength as she ages. Clarisa is seen as selfless, spiritual, and eccentric, as well as seen as someone who goes against social norms. A few themes overlap in both stories, these themes being aging, illness, and death. While Mr. Basu struggles with grief and physical decline, he chooses to escape through nostalgic memories. And Clarisa comes to an acceptance with death, which allows her to live freely, experience transformation, and be more at peace as she ages. Themes that are specific to Pigeons at Daybreak include nostalgia and memory, while Mr. Basu, which is shown through Mr. Basu escaping his pain and grief through Daybreak, which is also very symbolic in the story, hence the title. And loss of independence is another theme specific to this story, which is shown through Mr. Basu's limited mobility and his incapability of being able to complete normal daily tasks. Themes that are specific to Clarisa are spirituality and resistance to norms. Clarisa isn't a religious person, but she is spiritual in the sense that she follows her intuition and is strongly connected to the people around her. She is also connected to life, suffering, and compassion, which further shapes her quirky and otherworldly personality. Clarisa also resists gender roles, or traditional gender roles, and social expectations. And this is shown later in the story when she chooses to bear children outside of her marriage for spiritual autonomy. Both stories show how identity is shaped through relationships, aging, dependence, and the quiet strength found in caregiving roles.